That sound that echoed across Canada last night turned out to be a political earthquake, a tectonic shift of this country's political landscape, and today brought the aftershocks. This is what Canada's political map looked like after the last election in 2008. After last night, Liberal red is all but gone, all but limited to the Atlantic region. Familiar Conservative blue spread to every corner of the country. But there is more NDP orange than this country has ever seen. Another party leader stepped down today while the others tackled what's next. Stephen Harper was savoring a huge victory. He took the Conservatives to 167 seats, an increase of 24. So what's next? Terry Milewski covered the Conservative campaign. He's with us again tonight. Terry.
Well, Wendy, Stephen Harper is back in Ottawa with his majority at last, but he's not saying much about what exactly he will do with it.
It is a huge moment for him, his first chance to really show where he wants to take the country. But first, he had to enjoy it, although Harper's not exactly a party animal. He was carefree enough to take one unscheduled extra question this morning to tell how his staff tried to get him to drink champagne last night.
They passed me the champagne and wanted me to guzzle it out of the bottle, and some of you may know I'm not much of a drinker, but I did. However, they tricked me. There was only like that much in it, so much for my wild side.
On other issues, there was no wild side. Will he open the door to private delivery of health care, as he has recommended in the past? Not much.
Provinces have, within the existing framework, experimented with alternative delivery, but that is different than moving away from the basis of a universal system of public health insurance coverage, and we are all committed to that.
As for his party's poor showing in Quebec, he said,
that's the decision of the voters, and we accept it, and we accept that we have a lot more work to do to gain the true confidence of Quebecers, and we're dedicated to doing that.
And he was careful not to suggest any dramatic or radical agenda.
But even as a majority, you have to, on an ongoing basis, keep the trust of the population, and that's what we will be committed to doing, not only where we won, but in areas where we didn't win, trying to gain more trust.
Harper has not said when Parliament will reconvene. He has said, though, in the campaign that he will reintroduce the same budget. First, though, he will have to rebuild his cabinet, having lost 4 ministers last night. Wendy.
Thanks, Terry. Terry Milewski. Jack Layton was also celebrating today. He increased his party seats by 65 to a historic 102 and achieved official opposition status. But as Rosemary Barton reports, with his success comes many challenges immediately ahead.
After the orange crush comes the reality of what it means. And for Jack Layton, now leader of the official opposition, the first order of business is getting to know his caucus, some of whom are very young and very inexperienced.
I don't share this notion that a young person is somehow not qualified. And evidently, the people of Quebec who voted for these new MPs feel the same way.
The NDP took 58 seats in Quebec, decimating the Bloc Québécois, putting new pressure on the NDP to represent the province.
We've been given an opportunity here, and I can tell you I treat it very, very seriously. And we are going to be setting out to work on how best to deliver on the hopes and aspirations of Quebecers, literally starting today.
But Layton must also find a way to work within a majority government. Ironically, the NDP had more leverage in Parliament before the election than it will now. Layton could force negotiation and compromise on all sides. He seems to believe he can still influence Stephen Harper.
He has, I think, an obligation and an opportunity as Prime Minister to work with others. And I can tell you that we are going to be making proposals for specific initiatives, and we're going to work very hard, because I'm actually more interested in proposition, as I've always said, than opposition, to try to actually get results for people.
But getting results from a Conservative government which is on the complete opposite side of almost every NDP position seems like wishful thinking. Layton says he can at very least influence the agenda. This is also a very personal success for Layton. He has brought the NDP to a new threshold, and he gave a hint of the emotions he is feeling today.
I gave my granddaughter Beatrice a big hug, and this is really all about her and about the future generations. It's what motivates us all, no matter what party who were elected, and we really are going to try to make a better world for our kids and our grandchildren. So that was very close to my heart when I saw those results, and I take it as a huge responsibility, just like any parent or grandparent would.
Now comes the real work, of course, settling into a new role, a new house, a new title. The challenges are many. Layton and his new caucus have a steep learning curve ahead. Wendy.
Thanks, Rosie. Rosemary Barton. A little later in the show, we're taking you behind the scenes for an exclusive look at how last night unfolded for Jack Layton. With the Liberal Party left grasping last night with just 34 seats, today what many thought was inevitable. Michael Ignatieff said he's stepping down as leader. And as Laurie Graham reports, the focus now is how to rebuild.
Michael Ignatieff said he wanted to stay on as leader, but after a night of colossal defeat, how could he? Just 12 hours later,
I will not be remaining as leader of this party, and I will work out with the party officials the best timing for a departure so that we can arrange a succession.
We needed to do to pull together.
there are already names being bandied about to take over the helm. Justin Trudeau, Bob Rae, who tried once before in 2008, and Dominic LeBlanc, who also made a brief run in 2008, but is mum on whether he'll try again.
We'll have many weeks and months to discuss different leadership scenarios, and that's the time when I would want to discuss my own, if in fact that's the case.
Thanks, guys. Okay.
For now, the party will have to find someone to take over the reins in the interim.
We'll take this all one step at a time, and the first thing is for caucus to meet and to give advice to each other about how best to proceed from here.
A tough pill for most Liberals who remember when the party was king, known for its historic domination of the House of Commons. But after the sponsorship scandal, the constant infighting, the Liberal brand has gradually faded. And now with only a few dozen seats that will be moved to the corner, no longer across from the government, Liberals will have a long road back.
We have to look to the young people. We can't look to an older generation. It has to be looked to a newer generation of leaders that really can look at a longer-term strategy over the next 5 to 10 years. Really not something that we're going to look at something in the next election, which is going to be in 2015. That's still going to be a rebuilding phase. It's really a long-term rebuilding proposition.
The Liberals will meet next Wednesday, the smallest caucus in the history of the party. Off the record, a number of Liberals say there may be one positive to the Conservative majority. It will give the Liberal Party 4 solid years to rebuild. Laurie Graham, CBC News, Ottawa.
The NDP's success in Quebec all but obliterated the Bloc Québécois. While it was expected the party would lose seats, just about no one foresaw the free fall to single digits. As Lynn Robson reports, the very survival of the party is in question.
Meet some of the 44 happiest people in Quebec. Happy and maybe a little bit scared to find themselves suddenly NDP MPs.
I guess I am a bit shell-shocked.
And here are some of the saddest Quebecers watching the end of an era.
It's exactly when you have someone close to you who died.
Leaderless and emotionally drained, the Bloc's future is unclear.
I really don't understand what's going on. So we have to sit together and find time to think about it.
Under Gilles Duceppe, the Bloc became left-leaning, less obsessed with sovereignty. Now, some say the party can return to its conservative roots.
I think they're just going to become strictly hard-edged sovereignists now and represent the sovereignist vote in Quebec.
The Bloc may not survive, but even without it, separatists say the election of a majority Conservative government could breathe new life into the sovereignty movement. Politics will be polarized, he says, right-wing Conservatives and Quebec people. Polarized is the word of the day here, because Quebecers didn't just reject the Bloc. 82% of Quebecers voted against Stephen Harper's Conservative government. On one hand, the Tories might punish Quebec for that.
Quebecers will be in a minority in this government, and they can't really blame the Conservative government for not being extremely sensitive to their needs.
Or maybe, says Pratt, the government should reward Quebecers for rejecting the sovereignist bloc. One last chance for a federalist party, he says. For the first time in 20 years, Quebecers voted overwhelmingly for Federalists.
but they still wind up in opposition. Lynn Robson, CBC News, Montreal.
Quebecers were among the almost 15 million Canadians who cast a ballot in this election. Elections Canada says preliminary voter turnout is 61.4%, up just slightly from the 2008 all-time low of just over 59%.